many fans you are in this shit.
Hello and welcome to coverage of the PDGA Euro Tour. This is the 7th stop, the 2023 Åland Open. We are in the Nordic archipelago, the islands between Sweden and Finland on the Baltic Sea at Vesterkalmare Disc Golf Course, an incredible venue for an incredible tournament. This is Round 1 Front 9 MPO feature card coverage brought to you by MDG Media. I'm Connor Wood, and with me, Elias Luukkonen.
What is up, Connors? What is up, viewers? Very exciting event here. Actually, the first big event in Åland. Let's take a look at the players. We got Joona Heinänen, an absolute master at throwing the disc, especially with the backhand. A lot of power, but also a lot of touch on him.
Niklas, Anttila, an incredible player who has been powering through this season with some amazing showings. Started off in the United States and has translated that to multiple podium and winning finishes back in Europe now. Excited to see him join us on this incredible course.
Niklas also the current Finnish champion, so absolute cream of the crop in Finland. And of course we got Eagle McMahon, statistically the highest rated player in the tournament. Very excited to see him here. He's got a good game for this course, especially on the more open back nine.
And Oakley, also joining us today, has a very solid command of both the forehand and backhand. He's had some good experience over just playing the PCS Open not too long ago and is continuing his European tour here in the Åland Islands. An incredible destination for disc golf tourism if you get the chance. We kick it off with hole 1, one of the friendliest holes on the course. This is a par 3 75-meter shot with a early high floor as well as low ceiling from the branches. It goes straight with a right to left slope where you see the basket tucked behind these last trees and OB on the left side. A lot of players may be considering throwing a hyzer shape, but really it's more of a straight to rightward shape, allowing the slope to filter you down to the left, and it's a great way to get your round started.
You guys met, right? Obviously.
We met yesterday.
Cool. Yeah, good luck your third day. Hey, I got PDGA live.
Oh yeah. You said you bike here?
Yeah, we went to bike hotel. It was
2 people from the United States and 2 players from Finland. First on the tee, sponsored by Innova, Droppari, Hyzerflex. Please welcome Joona Heinänen.
From the drone shots you could already see some of the tents that the tournament organization has put up. This tournament has had a lot of effort put into it, showing everywhere on the course. Joona here going with a bit of a hyzer shape, as you said. This needs to calm down, and it gets a pretty good kick there. That was coming in a little hot, but the angle was pretty nice.
Yeah, quite an aggressive line, trying to get that leftwards fade, but really nicely placed with the backstop.
Mr. Niklas, Anttila.
It looks like Niklas has got 2 of his most trusted discs in his hand, Sensei, and what he looks like to be choosing to go with, the razor claw tactic.
As we take a look at his release angle, we do see some hyzer release, but very nose up. I think that high floor off the tee contributing, requiring players to throw with a little bit of height, but quite a lot of overstability in that disc choice as well. As you see the result, he'll fade out early left. Some trees in his way still, but an easy 3.
By DISCMANIA and grip equipment. Put your hands together for Eagle McMahon.
The OB on the left side possibly can come into play if you do something similar to what Niklas did. If you throw at all with a hyzer angle, it really can come into play if you don't hit any of the trees. Of course, not what these players are looking for, as it is a pretty simple hole. That's what Eagle is showing us. A perfectly straight shot there, almost running the basket for the ace.
And firing well past it, but I think just within circle's edge.
From Florida, sponsored by Thought Space Athletics, Infinite Discs and Clash Discs. Let's welcome Eric Oakley.
It is really easy to push the distance a little too much. The nose-up angle early on encourages players to give it a little bit more juice than they would traditionally on a 75-meter par 3. As we'll see, Eric's approach now a much nicer height, and you see that flip up to flat looking like an ideal shape. The hill filters him to the left. You don't need to make the fade yourself. Often the hill will give it to you, and you see that just there. Perfect execution from Eric Oakley.
Yep, that was well done. Not really utilizing the nose up as much as the other players, but rather just crashing into the hillside. This hole was actually playing surprisingly difficult. Just barely playing below par at 2.99 average, even though it is a pretty simple, straightforward hole. Looks like Niklas here is just having to lay up for the par.
And quite common there on that left side early. You have so many trees and small gaps that it does not allow for any significant putting chance. But Eagle has fired long of the basket, will have an open look back with the low ceiling. He's going to get a lot of spin on this to fight that and cashes it very nicely. Our first birdie of the feature card here in the Åland Open.
Yep, very confident looking stroke there. As we would expect from Eagle, he must have a lot of confidence going into this event. And same from Joona there, on the pole. That's how you want to start off the round. For these top players, it's a pretty regular shot. You know, this whole one. For some of the weaker players in the field, it can definitely cause some trouble.
But yeah, difficult to bogey unless you kick off a tree and bring that OB left into play. Otherwise, quite friendly to play into the hillside. As we see a series of 2s and 1-3 for Niklas. We move to hole 2, a 105-meter par 3 that is surprisingly difficult to birdie. You see that as you throw forwards through this tunnel shot, the fairway then begins to bend left with the continuous low ceiling and tight tunnel with trees to all sides. The basket is tucked way around up there, and simply due to the angle at which and speed at which you need to turn left early in the fairway, even an ideal shot can find itself very well short of the green. It encourages players to get quite creative, and although the hyzer backhand skip shot is the safest, it might not always get all the way to the basket. We'll see how our players choose to navigate a hole that's a fairly easy, manageable 3 and a very difficult 2. A good shot from Joona, but still 50 or 40 from the basket.
Yep, that's a pretty common result there. You can see Joona went wide with a very steep angle, not really trying to park the hole, which parking this hole is almost impossible. Pretty much all players, even if they're trying to birdie the hole, they're trying to get to circle 1's edge or even just circle 2. Eagle there had a pretty good looking shape, but just pushing it too far, not hitting the fairway there.
We'll see if Eric makes the adjustment. It's interesting to see the width that people choose to play with here. This is lower to the ground and going to get more of a pushing skip. But again, just coming up a bit too forwards on his shot doesn't make it through the initial gap around the corner. Also still about 50 or so to the basket.
Looks like the first 3 players played it with a lot of speed, especially going forward. And you can see Niklas doing the same mistake. On this hole, you really have to go left early and continue going left. It's a very difficult shape. You almost have to kind of slow your shot down to get left early enough.
Absolutely, especially with the overstable drivers that will provide the ground play. If you throw them hard, they'll just push forwards too quickly. And Niklas on the approach, a soft touch hyzer entering the green. Nicely done. There is to the left of the basket a small drop off leading to OB, but again, quite difficult to bring into play with how leftwards you need to go. This is Eagle from the knee, I believe throwing the razor claw as well, and gets himself right up there outside bullseye about 5 meters.
One stat that really tells how difficult this hole is to get into the circle is that 36% of the field were in circle 2, but only 2% were in circle 1 after their first shot. So it is almost impossible to get to that circle 1 with your drive. As we saw Joona and also Eric here just trying to put it under the basket, get that par and move on.
Yeah, very unique shape on quite a unique hole. Backhand hyzer does play to circle 2 with a great shot, but maybe even potentially some creative lines are the way to go if you really want to birdie it. This is eagle for par. And the weather, as you can see, was very nice. We had some sun, but as the day picked up, the winds also began to rise. It was about 15 to 25 degrees Celsius throughout the day, and the winds got up to even about 30 kilometers an hour at some points, so significant. As our players will deal with that on some of the more open holes, we look to see our par frame come to fruition here.
Yep, the players are going to be protected from the wind for pretty much the majority of this front 9 coming into play on the back 9. That is, I feel like, an interesting thing about this course, that the front 9 is very wooded and the back 9 is completely different, completely open.
Our players will move to hole 3, a 140 meter par 4 requiring 2 good placement shots. You see immediately uphill off the tee a significant slope with a rocky facade. If you do get to the ideal landing zone right about here, the fairway bends 90 degrees to the left where you have this tunnel shot leading to the sloped green right to left. The ideal landing zone for this mulch tunnel is about 65 meters off the tee uphill. You don't need too much distance, but a lot of players will still opt to go with the aggressive driver hyzer to try and fade left as much as possible and reduce the distance of this second tunnel shot where you get to this slightly dangerous green, although you can crash into the hillside on your approach to the right and be quite comfortable. Joona up first. We'll see if he takes the inside hyzer, which he looks to be doing, and he's trying to cut the corner around into the tunnel, but just early left, and he will be significantly pinched on his angle.
Hard to say whether Joona was actually trying to go just for the straight shot, since he looked like to have a mid-range in his hands. Eagle here going for the alternative route of going around the outside with the mid-range, and that is very impressive speed control. He's gonna still have that short gap even with going around the outside.
Eric playing a similar line to Eagle, the wider hyzer. And he's pushing the second tunnel shot on the right. It gives less ideal footing, but slightly larger gaps between the trees. Niklas now.
Niklas going way inside. This is a more aggressive line and looks like he's thrown it pretty well. Although you can see, even with Niklas being very far on the inside left, he still pushes beyond the first gap of the fairway and into the middle trees. That might actually cause for some tricky approaches.
And we see the rare forehand from Joona here. Doesn't often use it off the tee, but loves to scramble and go for placement shots. Looking to lay down the forehand roller. Unclear how much progress he made up the fairway. You could see how much he was punished for going that early left.
An Eagle here going for the grenade, I believe with a slightly understable disc to get a right finish with the grenade. Looks like he's done it very well there. Looks like he had an understable fairway driver in his hands, which on a grenade will finish more right compared to a more stable disc. And Eric here on the right side fairway with a pretty good looking forehand, but seems like he did not quite get around the last trees there.
And you could see, although he had tougher footing, the gaps do open up to the right side quite nicely compared to the traditional left side tunnel. Anttila shaping the Anheuser forehand flex, looking to have this flatten out. And he's pushed it a touch long, but putting uphill can give that a confident chance. He gets a roll, and he is now rolled outside of the circle. Will be left with a circle 2 birdie look uphill. Niklas so far unable to find a birdie. That will be his chance. Joona, his third shot now.
Another forehand here. You can see that touch Joona has got some good touch with the forehand. He doesn't throw it super far. He's not usually comfortable with throwing it full power, but for those short approaches, he's actually got some really good accuracy.
This is Eric now for his birdie. Just a little bit low, especially from where he's putting that slope to the left behind the basket. If he goes high or fades, he is way down there. Niklas from circle 2.
Kind of a aggressive looking release there. Niklas usually very confident, very peaceful with his putt. And Eagle here drains it on the left side. He's 2 under through 3 holes, that's the kind of start you want. I believe hole 2 is so difficult to birdie, and hole 1 and hole 3 are both pretty birdieable. So you would really like to be 2 under through 3 if you're trying to shoot a hot round.
Absolutely. At least 1, if not 2 birdies in the front 3 is ideal. I think no player is really expecting to get hole 2. As we'll see, both Niklas and Eric take their pars along with Joona. Eagle with the lone birdie here on hole 3 for our feature card. Already showing you the technicality of this front 9 at the Åland Vesterkalmare disc golf course. Hole 4. This says it's a 77-meter par 3, but playing significantly longer. This is straight uphill at a steep angle. The basket is completely blind to the tee. As you throw a straight shot all the way up the hill, you want a soft finish to the left, effectively a nose-up hyzer release that flattens out and then fades to the left. Very difficult to not only hit your gap, but match the nose angle to the slope, as it's so severely uphill. Anything 2 nose up will hyzer out early. Anything 2 nose down will just dig the hill. Even on camera, it doesn't look as steep as it is. We'll see Eagle up first.
Looks like the perfect line there. You can see he got that nose up, matching the hillside, and he's absolutely parked there just outside the bullseye. This hole is a little bit deceiving. You don't really need to move that far left. Many players are just going for a straight shot. And with a straight shot you can still be within 5 meters of the basket. As you can see, Joona also was trying to hyzer it. And he hyzers out early, still well within putting distance.
Eric now. All of these players likely leaning on something understable. And that, unfortunately, is quite a common result on this hole. Eric Oakley hits one of the earliest trees to the right side. Niklas now to make that correction. And this looks to be fading left quite early. Not quite getting all the way to the green. He'll be left with an obstructed circle 2 look. But just outside, I think. For a putter of his skill, absolutely a birdie chance. Eric with a lot of distance left now.
Still needs to contend with that uphill, and you can see the disc coming out a little bit low. Possibly some difficult footing, possibly just a bad release from him. And he still has a long putt to go for the par. This is not a hole you want to bogey, or even consider taking a bogey on. As Niklas has faded out left with the putt. That was no easy putt, but you would imagine that Niklas would have picked at least 1 birdie out of the first 4.
And Eric comes out the right side. An unfriendly basket so far. We'll see if Joona can make friends with it.
And of course he can. This hole was playing interesting for the scoring average, as it was averaging just slightly below par, and a lot of the field getting the birdie, almost third of the field getting the birdie on this hole. But there still was a good percentage of bogeys, 17% getting bogey or worse, which speaks about what can happen if you hit some of those early trees. We saw Eric there hitting the early trees, having a difficult approach even on this very short hole.
And that speaks a lot to what you'll see at Åland. The use of elevation both up and down is very noticeable. And you see that here as well on hole 5. A 160 meter par 4 going uphill. You have this tunnel shot the entire way. The good landing zone is right about here. If you can pierce into the second bend of the fairway, it will allow a variety of shot shapes to access the green. The forehand hyzer for the right-handed player being the most common, either spiking it up high or bending around this corner here. You really want something that moves left to right twice in a row. You can play the turnover backhand and then the spike hyzer, or you can go forehand twice if you're capable and comfortable with that. But to get a lot of distance, I think a lot of these players will be looking for the big turnover backhand, and Eagle is looking to crush this one up there. A ton of height, a ton of turn, and that came in with lots of speed. He will be in a very awkward place on the hillside and quite pinched from that angle.
Yeah, looks like Eagle was going for a huge shot there, which is not exactly necessary on this hole. Joona is doing the same and also turning it way over. Pretty surprising to see these players going for such a big shot, as you only need about 100 meters off the tee to give yourself a very, very simple forehand pitch approach.
This is more of a traditional line and height from Niklas, at least for the backhand. And he's just playing into the fairway, potentially also overturned, but you can see less height and less speed. This is, I think, the most common play for the right-handed player. Great drone shot view here of Eric's forehand hyzer. And that's all you need, really. As you touched on, Elias, about 100 meters is that sweet spot, allowing you about 60 to 70 into the green. And that is just fine from Eric there.
Especially with Eric's forehand approach skills, it will be pretty simple from there. And Niklas is actually in a very bad position here. He's on the right side of the fairway, going across to the left, pushing it too far straight. And he's still gonna have a few trees to contend with. Not a lot of distance from there, only about 50 meters left.
I am surprised to see both Eagle and Niklas get that aggressive on a 160 meter par 4, potentially trying to find the 2 if they're really smushing it. Eric's approach off the branch, almost pinning it. Smooth play. He'll be left with a tap-in birdie and a solid bounce back after the bogey on 4. Great composure from Eric Oakley. Joona once again looking to play the forehand, getting a high hyzer. This is going to stall out and crash the green. It comes up just a little bit short, but still an open putt.
An Eagle going another grenade. The trees are pretty low on this course. They're not very tall. And he's going to be able to go over them no problem. A little bit long there. Possibly was rather trying to go long than short, since on the long side there is not much obstacles here. Look at this angle from Niklas. He's having to go with a very overstable disc. From the knee, going around the corner, even cutting it tight. And he's going to have a putt left for the par.
Joona now. His long look, I believe, for his birdie there. Unfortunately, will be left with par. Although 2 down through 5, he has a decent pace. Eagle sitting at 3 down, currently leading our feature card. And that was for 4. Just chaining out the high left. He saw the distance he had remaining. Not an easy putt. And Niklas now for his par. A healthy putt.
Yep, well done there. That signature pitch putt from close distance. Almost never missing with that style. I'm a little bit surprised that we're not seeing more than a single birdie on this hole, as it was actually the 5th easiest hole on the course. 38% of the field getting that birdie, so these guys are definitely losing some strokes.
And the previous hole may have been the shortest of the par 4s. As we move on to hole 6, a very similar shape but considerably more distance. This par 4 sits at 223 meters uphill, although not as severe as the last one, still comes into play quite significantly. You want a straight shot that finishes to the right into this rocky open fairway here, allowing you another second shot that goes straight and to the right again, where this basket is perched on the top of a hill with a drop-off directly behind. In great contrast to hole 5, this par 4 is incredibly difficult to birdie, given all of its dangers and its significant distance uphill. I could imagine that this one played quite a lot harder on the day, Elias.
Yep, this was the most difficult hole on the course, and for good reason. Let's see how these players can navigate. Eric going with a safer play, which is a forehand, just trying to hit the gap and finish right. He's on the fairway there, a bit more on the long side, and he's gonna have a long approach to the green. It's a good position, but from there you need an incredible shot to get inside the circle.
Eagle looking for the high turnover. He'll need to find the correct amount of turn and fade in order to put himself in the sweet spot, but that goes left quite early, and he is now firmly off the fairway. Although it's quite friendly to the left and open, it's certainly not where you'd want to be if you could place your disc. Joona now, hopefully looking at that correction on the backhand line. He'll want more turn to the right.
Looks like he had some good turn, but just hitting one of the last trees, and he has actually kicked OB. There is hole 9's OB island on the left side of this hole, and that is the only OB on the hole, and Joona with a terrible break to end up there.
Niklas crafting this shape beautifully. If he can find the fade, he'll move himself back into the fairway with a long pushing flight that looks to be great, but even from an ideal spot on this fairway, you have a rocky slope, many small trees in the way. The line, even from a good spot, is not always clear. Joona now from the left side of the fairway, looking to play the hyzer back into the middle. But put quite a lot of juice on that, and I believe he fired too far straight. Will continue to scramble.
You have to wonder if Joona was even trying to go hyzer over the trees all the way to the basket, which is what many people will try to do on this hole. You really have two approaches, as we see Eric throwing the other option, the left to right moving shot, either a forehand or a turnover. But looks like Eagle from the left side of the fairway is going high over the trees. Is he trying to reach the basket here? I can't really tell. Looks like he is.
And he's done just that. He will be putting towards the downslope, but an incredible shot from a compromised position to get himself in the circle and putting for birdie. Eagle McMahon really shredding this course with the high lines. Anttila getting caught up is on that right side rough as he continues to scramble. Still even par for Niklas.
Pretty surprising, especially since this front nine is exactly what Niklas is good at. These tight wooded shots. Joona there having to go standstill again. I believe hitting some of the early trees. He's not gonna have a great chance to get to par, and it's even a difficult layup from here. It's very rocky, green and sloping behind the basket.
From, I believe, Niklas as well, the layup coming in. Even Eric, who looks to be just about circle's edge, knows he can take a tap-in 4 on a hole that I believe averaged about 5. Knows that he's taking strokes on the field. This is Eagle for birdie. And a confident putt, putting that one in. He is 4 down through the front 6, absolutely scorching it.
What a great birdie, and Eagle was actually one of only 3 birdies on the day. Shout out to Thomas Gilbert and Melker Molin for getting the elusive 3 on this hole. As we see some bigger numbers on the card.
We move to hole 7, a 108 meter par 3, once again going softly uphill as well as having an initial high floor. Players will need to throw a straight to softly right shaping shot. You can throw the forehand hyzer flip or hyzer, but it really does shape most naturally for the turnover backhand that flattens out towards the end of the flight. For a lot of players, a mid-range or fairway to match the slope of the uphill and try to just curl one up nicely into the green. This is one of the more attackable holes on the course, and I think definitely a birdie chance for all 4 of these players. Eagle getting us started here, looking to release on Anheuser out of the hand with a stable disc that will flatten out.
Very nice looking release angle, but not quite getting the fade back, so he has ended up on the right side short. It's a pretty common landing zone to be in circle 2 on this hole, as actually 79% of the field is inside circle 2 on their first shot. As we saw, Eric actually not probably going to be part of those 79%, as he has landed extremely short with a low release there.
I find the forehand incredibly difficult because you need to go very tight to the right side. Throwing the backhand opens up all of this space to the left. Niklas not turning it over as much as I'm sure he would have liked, but has still given himself a circle 2 look at the birdie. Joona now, a master of the backhand angle control. We'll see if he can find the shape here.
And that looks just perfect. Look at the shot. You saw he put that tiny bit of Anheuser angle at the start, going with a neutral to slightly overstable disc. He's parked there. Let's see if other players can ring up some fireworks here. Eric first.
Oh, wow. An incredible run. Just a few centimeters low from way deep. That'll be Eric taking a tap in 3. This is eagle for his birdie. And he is deadly on the greens today.
Wow, that had so much velocity on it. I can't understand how he has so much confidence on the putt. Wow, what a clean stroke there. His putting is looking dialed right now.
And Niklas, another putt for birdie, finding the chains and not sticking as he continues on his streak of pars. You can imagine that that can be a little bit frustrating for a putter of Niklas's caliber, one of the best in Europe, if not the best in the world, and today just not able to translate his birdie looks.
And he's been hitting the basket. He's hit chains already a couple of times, but just not sticking inside the basket.
As we see both Eagle and Joona walk away with the birdies there. Pars for Eric and Niklas. We have another very attackable hole here. Hole 8 is a 71 meter par 3 tunnel shot. Although some players may opt to play over the trees, the traditional line is a putter thrown straight down this tunnel, having a soft landing. This is really about the hyzer angle control and releasing on your line. It's fairly generous considering it's a wooded shot with about 3 to 5 meters initial gap. You just want something that flips up to flat and rides. Some players will choose to spike a backhand or forehand hyzer in. Speaking of, Eagle shaping something here, I believe another grenade. Gonna go right over the top.
Yep, already the third grenade off the round. Looks like he's got it on a good line there, just needs to drop down. Didn't really see the disc. The line looked to be pretty good, maybe slightly on the right side of the basket. We'll have to see. And Joona going for the traditional, going towards the right side with a bit of a hyzer release, and he's almost acing the basket. What a great shot, and look at that speed control too. Landing next to the basket and settling just 3 meters long.
Such an amazing touch on Joona's backhand. Eric looking for some more overstability in his disc, having a soft Anheuser release, and he looks to have snuck through into the circle. A nice shape that, although may have not been exactly what he's looking for, giving him a great result. And Niklas with the standstill.
I feel the Anheuser flex shot kind of opens up the widest gap on the fairway. So that's maybe why Niklas and Eric both going for the shot. But Niklas once again gonna have a long putt for the birdie, and he will have to make that to end his 7-stroke or 7-hole par streak. Let's see Eagle first. Looks like he was a bit short and right with the grenade.
That one just floating by from about circle's edge. Look to have a compromised stroke. This is Niklas for birdie. And a beautiful delivery to finally get himself on the board and under par here on hole 8. A very nice measured putt, and great to see someone find their stride after a difficult start.
And Eric there just pulling it to the right, having to go very low because of the low ceiling. You can see that frustration there. It's a very easy hole. You do not want to par this hole, and especially not bogey, which Eagle avoids to do. It is actually the second easiest hole on the course, and 40% of the field getting a birdie on this one. So it's definitely one you want to get the 2 on.
Eric there, you will notice as you continue enjoying coverage of this event, this is one of the last, what could be considered easy birdies of the course. Moving forwards, the back 9 changes quite significantly from this wooded front 9.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the shorter holes on the course. Although for players of this distance, some of these players might actually be more comfortable on the back 9, even though for the majority of the field the back 9 might be more difficult.
Absolutely. Well said there. We move to hole 9, a 79-meter downhill island hole. You can see quite a generous island on a lot of the sides, larger than circle 1, but with a lot of trees in the way, and that drop zone in the bottom right of your frame just exiting. If you don't stick the island, it is a long putt back, and you can see here just how generous the size is. It's about 12 to 15 meters on all sides around the basket. Players can throw a low-speed disc straight at it, try to spike in the hyzer, or even go with something a little bit more unorthodox. This is about picking your shot and executing. You can throw whatever you'd like, and Joona, throwing whatever he likes, has absolutely parked it with the backhand standstill putter, and that is his bread and butter.
What a beautiful shot, and a beautiful saying from Connor there. You can see Joona was not challenging any of the trees. We see a lot of players challenging the last tree on the right side, trying to hyzer their way in. Looks like that's what Niklas is doing, but he has turned it over and he has missed the island. He will have to take his putt from the drop zone about 15 meters away. That's kind of a disaster on this hole. It's, as you said, a very generous island. Not any players from this caliber would like to miss this one.
An Eagle with a smooth touch there has a great command of his slow speed putter releases. We'll see Eric now. I believe throwing the Berg. A very friendly disc for this hole, going to move up and down with not too much turn or fade. And he gives it a very nice run straight to the pin.
You can see the Barry just absolutely dropping out of the sky. He threw it pretty hard and still not going more than 2 meters long there. I believe what really tells about the difficulty of this hole, or pretty much, or the ease of this hole, is that 58% of the field was putting birdie from circle 1. So Niklas is going to lose a lot of strokes.
An unfortunate timing, just as Niklas has found himself under par. Will take the bogey to go back to even. Eagle rather, drilling that putt from short distances, has really been firing them in today, more so than I remember him doing so in some previous performances, but looking very solid on the green. Joona off his ace run. Always great to give it both the ace run and make the birdie putt. Eric as well, absolutely parked.
And what a contrast here. Niklas getting the only bogey when everybody else is taking a birdie on the hole.
Quite a polarizing hole 9. As we close out the front nine, we take a look at the standings. Eagle McMahon has stormed ahead to the solo lead position at 6 under par. Tied in second at 5 under, Hjalte Jensen, Jakob Semrad, Melker Molin. Tied in fifth, a series of players: Scott Stokely, Mira Ruhanen, Oyvind Jarns, Oskari Wikström, Mattias Kaniainen, Pekka Huvanen. It is still a very tight battle, of course, early on in this tournament. We appreciate you joining us here for this beautiful coverage at an exciting disc golf venue. Always a pleasure, Elias. And make sure to join us on the back nine.
Thank you, Connor. Thank you guys for watching, and see you on the back, the more open back. Gonna see some discs fly. Hopefully see you there.
Bombs away.